Good evening to the Finance Committee's meeting as of March 11th. We have a pretty packed agenda tonight. We're going to start off hearing from the LELWD General Manager, Nick Lawler. Around 7:45, we're going to talk about the FY26 budget and warrant articles, and we have Town Administrator Jim Duggan here. We're going to go over one of those articles with us. We're going to talk about the financial policy appendix for the debt exclusion financial plan. And then we have a bunch of minutes to approve, and we should be adjourning sometime around 9 o'clock. So with that, let's start off.
It's past my bedtime.
I know.
Jeez.
It's the price you have to pay to be on FinCom.
I know.
Well, if Fred's gonna fall asleep, I'll wait till.
All yours, Nick.
I handed off, Nick Lawler, General Manager of Littleton Legislative Water Department. I handed you all a packet that, I think some of you received differently through the course of the year, but it contains the water budget, a comparison to last fiscal year, sewer budget, same comparison, town articles that we're presenting. And also the last sheet we'll go over that is projected impact to the town from the operating costs of the sewer department, and hopefully some good news in the future. But and I do appreciate Steve, Fred, and Jerry for keeping tabs on this and working with us on and off throughout the year to make sure that we all understand the financial impact, especially from the sewer enterprise fund, because it's a strain on the town, and we understand that. So we'll start off with the water budgets. I think that's probably a little bit easier. FY26. We're proposing a budget of $6.7 million, roughly $300,000 more than last year. And some of the contributors to that are, number one, our debt service went up $160,000 due to the final bonding of Wickham Ave and all the projects that we've been undertaking, Cedar Hill. The water department's now paying for their own business insurance, $115,000. We've separated that from the light department and separated it out, especially now that the water department has a lot of infrastructure that needs to be insured properly. So the water department, the water ratepayers are now covering that cost. We're due this year to replace the media in 2 of the PFAS filters, which is about $100,000 per filter. So it's a $200,000 addition to the operating budget. We've gone through a backwash of those filters. The filters are operating unbelievably. We thought we were going to replace the media of all 4 vessels every year, and we're into year 2. We got a little life left on them, and we'll replace media for 2 of them.
Is that because the loading is lower than you expected?
Yeah, it's like a breakthrough. Yeah, so you obviously want to get it replaced before you get breakthrough of PFAS.
Okay, great.
Yep. $100,000 addition for our full well maintenance and cleaning program. Every other year, we clean the wells every year, but every other year it's a full redevelopment. We pull the infrastructure out of the ground and go do a full cleaning and make sure everything's operating 100%. So that's really the additions to the budget. I do want to mention, because I think it often gets lost in the shuffle of things. The Board of Commissioners have committed $108,000 to Clean Lakes Commission, or Clean Lakes Committee, which was their full request for this year. The water Commissioners have always been extremely supportive of that group and try to utilize enterprise funds for enterprise fund related activities through the Clean Lakes Committee. And we've also worked closely with Administrator Jim Duggan to put $25,000 towards either salaries or professional services to support the activities for FY26 for the Clean Lakes Committee, to take some of the burden off of the conservation staff residents that they're doing that. And that's a 1-year thing, and we're still trying to figure out how that all works. But I just want to make sure that everybody's aware of that.
Okay, now, the money coming from the water department for Clean Lakes is not just carte blanche, it's for waters that affect the watershed.
Yeah, the Department of Revenue ruling is pretty clear that we have to spend enterprise fund dollars, enterprise fund activities.
Right.
So the Clean Lakes, they put together their projects and their budget, and they present individually to the Board of Commissioners on water.
Okay, so you guys vet the projects to make sure that they
the
fit
water
the.
department. There's other ones that impact Jim's budget that I'm sure that he best do with his staff.
Okay.
Overall, financially, the water department is in excellent shape. We've got about $5.5 million in the enterprise fund. We're completing a water project, replacing a water main, and plan to continue that. And financially, it's in great shape. From a capital project standpoint, we are going to do one of those special appropriations for Spec Pond. So you'll see under special appropriations $570,000. That's the Spec Pond replacement well. It's one of our biggest producing wells. And we're going to start the process to get new infrastructure in there. We're adding about $400,000 to a water main project with Taylor Street, right at the intersection of Wickham Ave. That's been a constricted pipe for a long time. And we figured, well, we got 2 hungry contractors in the area under contract. And disruption to that part of town, it makes sense to add on and do some of the right in that vicinity. And we're gonna be doing a media replacement for the, just the regular green sand media, that's that people book that removes iron and manganese. That's about 11 years old now, that's been online, so that media lasts a lot longer, it's a little less expensive to replace, but it's time for that as well. So it's a capital budget, and then the third page is the funding article for town meeting that represents the first 2 pieces of document.
The new well and the line going up to Boxborough, timing on that, you feel like you're in good shape there?
It's going well. I mean, if you live in the area, you see. And of course, they tend to break mailboxes and rock walls right at one of my commissioners' houses. It's like they picked it on purpose to mess with me. But they got all the water main in from Taylor Street almost to the Route 2 bridge, distribution and transmission main. They'll probably be there at the end of this week. Then the transmission main kind of goes, the distribution main connects right at the bridge, there's already infrastructure there. They get you to Nancy's Way. And then the other contractor was working on that prior to winter, and they got to about Dufour's property right at the town line. And they'll be back probably May to continue that. We didn't want 2 contractors on the road at the same time, because the detours are already bad enough, so we're trying to get one off the road before the other one comes back on. So that's the hope there. Once they get to the Route 2 bridge, the first contractor, then it's kind of cross-country, transmission main directional drill alongside Route 2 to the backside of the well property.
Okay.
But yeah, it's going well. You know, and I know Steve asked me yesterday about the road. That's all temporary. That will be a full width paved, paving, you know, once it's settled.
And you're paying for new suspension for his car? Is it?
Yeah. And then all the people
I go
across the
down
street
Wickham, I
first.
drive on the opposite side of the road. It's still bad, but it's better than the temporary paving.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah, they're doing a couple hundred feet at a time, so it's yeah, absolutely.
And have you had any discussions with Boxborough over the MBTA zoning? That'll be coming to their town meeting either in May or in the fall, because one of the zones is right up by where your line is going. And if, you know, another 3 apartment buildings go up there, will that drive any kind of capacity issue for you, or?
We're restricted by the original IMA for 65,000 gallons per day or in that ballpark. It was never our intention to support economic growth in Boxborough with this water line, which is solve a very specific need. You know, we've had questions about extending to Paddock Estates, which is on the other side of Mass Ave,
Yeah.
Bridge. We haven't done that.
So if somebody builds an apartment building and they have to drive a well, they're gonna drive it right into the well that we're trying to get rid of with your project, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure they can.
Okay. Okay.
But, yeah, no, we remember very well the will of the town. That one was to help out our neighbors in Boxborough. but not to, and we don't have the water to just throw it.
No, that was my concern, is that they zone it for the MBTA,
Yeah.
they get somebody to build it, and then you've got to, oh no, where do we get the water, you know? Okay.
But the developer will be long gone before that gets discovered.
Hmm. Okay.
Do you know how much of a surplus you have in the water fund now?
For
Just,
right now?
yeah.
Yeah, about 5.5 million.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
We're projecting to go lower, we project 3.5 by year end, but that's fully expended, everything, capital. It won't go that well, but we spend a lot on water mains. We got 1.25 in Taylor Street, part of that project, and obviously all the water main through the sewer
Okay.
project. It was great to replace it when the work was open.
You know, the reimbursements from Clean Water Trust coming in, we're getting a.
Yeah, I think we had a little bit of administrative error with them, so it held up a little bit, but they did cut the last check maybe 2 weeks ago, something like that. We have some people now that we know who to contact in case they get these guys involved in that project.
Okay.
So as long as the town continues to communicate with us, because we don't see when the funds come in, but they've done a good job of alerting us, hey, it's been a while, please, look into it, and we intend to get the money pretty quickly.
Because once you get past DeForest, it's all in the state at that point, right?
Oh, for
Because
that
you're
part,
you're into Harvard and Boxborough?
so it's not exactly clear what they'll pay for it, other than $6.5 million. So, and we only had 2 invoices that we haven't gone through a reimbursement request for that yet, for that project. And some of it will go right to the state for reimbursement, similar to MassWorks. That'll be the $6.5 million, and the rest will go through that Clean Water Trust for borrowing.
Okay. All right.
Which line is the money for Clean Lakes in?
That's environmental.
Environmental?
Yeah, environmental services.
Anything else on the water? Anybody?
Oh, thanks for having me tonight.
Now the fun.
The sewer budget was a little trickier this year, and we were relying on engineers because we're transitioning from the old plant, which is costly, ineffective, and terrible, to a new plant that, we don't quite yet know the cost of. So we rely on engineers' numbers. We don't know exactly when that cutoff's gonna be. So, and we know that the stress is put on the town. These funds come right from the town. So if I'm concerned with $1.5 million, Jim's gonna tell me no. So we tried very hard to make sure we put enough money in here to try to get us through the startup issues and all the things that we're gonna foresee. Which is why it went up, if you would, taking aside bond principal and interest, our O&M cost last year was $243,000. For everything you see on that sheet, the utilities, septic services, chemicals, equipment, all that stuff, salaries. And it's gone up to $334,000 this year. And that's because we're trying to make sure we have enough money there to run the plant in year one.
And when are you projecting it to come online right now?
I would say September is probably when we'll be online. We're hoping that it's substantial in June, when we go through startup procedures and stuff like that. I think we'll probably wait on the plant. Lavoli, who's doing the road work, will be back in town in April. They don't have a lot of work left. Their remaining work is basically from the entrance, the back entrance on King Street to IBM, right by, what's the farm said right there. That's kind of where they stopped. They had a little ledge. They were hoping to be done last year, and they couldn't get through the ledge. So they're there, and they're gonna go to basically the town line, so it's like 400 feet, 300 feet of excavation left. And we've shared, the schedule's on our website, we shared it with the town, I think they're supposed to be done maybe sometime in May, for infrastructure, installation. And then we've been working very closely with the state on final paving. The state typically requires a year on our permit, but they typically then let you only do 90 days of settling. The majority of that infrastructure's been over a year.
Right.
Some of it's almost 2 years. that last 300 feet is not gonna get a year. And we didn't really want, I'm tired of seeing our boards, I'd like to get them out of town as soon as possible. But I didn't really want to wait a whole nother year to have them come back and pave that into town. The state was nice enough to allow 90 days, like they typically would for any contractor, but they didn't have to. So the plan right now, and we're still, now of course National Grid wants to replace some gas lines on King Street, right? So we don't want to pave it and then have them come rip it up. So we're still working with National Grid on that. But right now the schedule shows for the high school end of King Street to be done, I think it was in June, July, and then hop on the other side by the Common in September. So everything would be complete prior to winter 25-26. And then the plant, obviously you guys, we were talking about before we started, plants are back there, they're working on, internal rooms and processes and stuff like that. They keep on mentioning some equipment delays, that's why I hesitate saying June, but they haven't put anything right, and they haven't really, so I don't know if they're just trying to get them the project and trying to see how lean the town is gonna be, which I told them, no problem, we'll liquidate damages, so if you think we get delays, let me know, and they stopped asking. So we'll see if they're playing real or not. But it doesn't really necessarily matter to us whether it's June or September or August. We can keep operating the plant as it is. Whenever that date is, we're ready to cut over. It'd be a nice day, because that old plant is tough to run. But yeah, I'm thinking fall for that.
This plant is designed to handle a significant flow. Obviously.
Yeah, I think it was like 540,000 gallons per day, something like that.
And for the next year, we're going to be putting 3,000 gallons into it. Any concern about operational issues with that minuscule flow? And I know it's modular, but
Yeah.
still, that's a pretty small piece of what you're going to have to run.
I mean, I'm
It's just-
not overly concerned, I haven't heard of any reason to be concerned, but I understand the point. It's media, I mean, it's filters, and so you're just pumping water through that, so hopefully,
Right.
that, I understand what you're saying.
Okay, just,
I'm more concerned with the burden falling on the town too, that to me, that's the bigger issue. It's hard to run this like a true utility, so reliant on the town to cover that bill, until we get users that are actually paying the utility bill, then we can operate like a utility.
Okay, yeah. Obviously, sooner the better.
Yeah.
It'll be what it is, right?
It is what it is.
Okay.
So we'll talk flows for now before we get into the betterment, so that last page.
Yeah, Steve, just before you get there,
Okay.
I do want to touch on a few things financially. We have been collecting betterments, we did assess the 10% betterment. I think we got $450,000 roughly in that betterment fund. So there are some funds in that account to, pay some of the bill. There is one other user. Hager Homestead is connected to the existing system. We generate about $6,000 to $9,000 a year from rates, projected rates from them with their new connection. So that's offset. I don't count that revenue anywhere. To me, that's revenue that's gonna stay with the enterprise fund unless the town says they really need $6,000. So, that's really just, everything stays in the enterprise fund, it's gonna support future years. In the enterprise fund, we project to have about $90,000 end of the year. So, it's not a healthy utility enterprise fund, but there is some funds in there, that, again, in a tight year, we might be able to utilize, whatever, it's gonna be certified, obviously.
Right, certainly, right.
So whatever certified.
Okay.
And then the enterprise fund article was right after that, that's the funding article. And we work closely with the town as far as how to use the betterment funds for that, and they advised us $300,000 is what they want to take from the betterment fund account to support that budget.
I saw something less than that, Nick, so you might want to check with Kim in.
We put $200,000 in last year. I had $200,000 in there. Then Kim and Robin said put $100 in there. then I have 100, and then they just said for 300 in there.
Oh, okay.
So that's the
Maybe
latest
change.
unless something's changed, but I can confirm with them.
Yeah, I saw, Kim sent me a sheet the other day, thought I saw like 230 or something.
Okay, I'll confirm with them.
Yeah.
All right, and the last page really hits on the operating cost of the plant and the impact to the town. And I know we've talked about this probably every year as far as what's the impact to the town. Because right now the town is in theory the only user other than Haver Homestead. Full operation of the plant falls in the town. And then it's hard to predict when the flow comes on. You guys can do as good a job as I can, trying to predict when Salapola is going to build something. Stuff not built yet. But there are some things we do know, right? So we do know that the legislation requires everyone in the district to connect within 2 years once the system is built. Now, there's some outs on that. They can ask for deferral that there's gotta be a reason, like I'm gonna knock this building down, do something different, and you might not want them to spend money on connecting. But the majority of the people in the district should be connecting within 2 years. So,
And that's 2 years from September, when the light switch goes on. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So in FY '26, you'll see the operating costs I carried at 334, that was, that's in our current funding article. And I splatted out, our gallons per day, 3,000 gallons per day, and 100% of that share falls on to the town, obviously. So $334,000 hits the town budget. In FY '27, I grew our budget 5%, just
Yep.
conservatively, and added 0 more usage, still 100% of the town, so now the $350,000 will fall to the town. And then FY '28, 2 years out, is when I started to add usage. We estimate there'd be about 20,000 gallons or so of usage in the district that within 2 years should be sewer flow. So that's why it jumps from 3,000 gallons per day to 26,000 gallons per day. And then instantly the town share goes from 100% to 12% of the operating. And that bill drops to, just under $50,000 per year. So that's when the town could start seeing the benefit of all the paying to build the sewer system.
Okay, so we've got 2 years, certainly 1 year, and then potentially the third year, depending on hookups and flow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what's our recourse when people just don't?
Yeah, they have to, but yes, I think there's conversations that happen, right? Like, why, what do you mean don't? Like, why aren't you connected?
Yeah, I'm just, one would imagine that there will be some folks that we have to,
They're gonna be paying for it. that
They're
connection.
paying the betterment.
Right, so
They're
you're gonna-
legally obligated to pay the betterment, so.
okay.
But we haven't, there's only one customer that we've heard from that doesn't want to connect. Everybody else in the district is asking us when it's going to be.
Okay,
Now, that doesn't
cool.
mean there's not somebody that's not saying anything.
Sure. I
But
just,
I'm not.
I just think of worst case.
Yep. And then for years FY '29 through '38, for planning purposes, we just did 10% a year of what Sal's saying. He keeps saying it's a 10-year build, so we'll just spread it out over 10 years. It won't be quite like that, right? If he comes in and builds 300 units, well, that's not 10%, that's flow.
Right, there'd be some
So
step
it's
function,
just
right?
some step function
Yep.
to it, but
Sure.
for the purposes of this spreadsheet, we just flatten that out 10% a year.
So does the 26,000 that you have in FY '28 include everything hooked up except for 550? Is that what that is?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, so he's not hooking up either of the IBM buildings
No, he will.
eventually, but
Yeah, there is a tenant in the IBM building, Hyper.
some small percentage of everything.
Yeah, I don't think they're not a large user of anything right now, but there's flow there. And that's probably not even the 26,000 gallons, because if you remember, at the time that, when we did all this, Salapoli had rights to 1 EDU, right, it's all he had. We chose as a community to go 150,000 gallons per day to help fund this project.
Right.
So that's probably not even in the 26,000 gallons, but from his first phase one, he's looking to build what he says, you can choose to believe him.
Mhm.
300 apartments, kind of right down the middle of that
Yeah.
parcel. And it starts in the back, right where the existing treatment facility is. So he has to connect at least the existing buildings, because he has a tenant in there, as soon as he begins the construction.
Okay.
He's going to disturb the existing.
No, it's good news. I mean, the sooner that happens, the better off we're all gonna be.
If I can just interject 1 second, just for the schedule. The plan is, yes, the 300 units, but he's gonna do 150, and then he's gonna do a commercial pad. Then he's gonna go back and do the other 150. So there will be people in that first round for them to finish the 150 units. So that would be quicker than finishing the 300 units, is my point, so.
Did he give you a timeline when he thinks that the first 150 will be,
Done?
yeah?
Well, the plan is to go vertical in the fall after the infrastructure is gonna start next month, and take that through into the fall and just acquiesce into starting to put the units up. And that's the process he's gonna do. Units first, then commercial,
So I think he indicates like the 18 months to build.
something like that, yeah.
So then you get the fall
Yes.
of 26, spring of
27. So we're out to 28, FY 28 realistically. I mean,
So the potential that, I mean, I don't show that coming on to FY 29.
Yep.
I mean,
Okay.
I'll keep on calling Steve's advice and be
Yeah.
dire about the situation. I think it's better prepares us for fiscal week.
You satisfied?
Yep.
Yep, okay. So betterment wise, we're looking at putting it on FY 27? No, yes. The actual bill for FY 26, right, yeah, February.
Yeah, so, I need final cost in order to have the commissioners commit to betterment to get to the sessions, to get on the February bills. It appears that if I do things in August, that's like drop dead time. That's the latest I can get my board to act, to give the assessors enough time to do the things they need to do to get on tax bill in February. We'll have those final numbers. I mean, at the end of the day, there's no more change. We know the cost of the road work, we know the cost of the plant. Really, it's the final paving, that's the last, variable. We'll know that, probably May or June, to be able to get to my board. I don't want to cause a fire bill for the assessors. If it has to be August, that's fine, it'll be August, but I'd like to get it to them earlier. So I'm shooting for June as a time that we'll commit, do our part of the process and get the final numbers to the assessors, through our board of commissioners.
So you're comfortable you can get to next February's tax?
I don't have a choice. I mean,
Yeah, no.
it's too much of an impact. It really,
Okay.
I mean, it was $1.6 million this year or something like that. It's only gonna be more next year. So we have to do everything we can to make sure that we do that.
I think it can only go on the actual bill.
Right.
So if we miss February, this February, it waits a whole year before it gets to the following
So
February.
that's the,
And he has to start his process, like you said, in August, because the assessors then need to verify the information. They need to send letters out to everybody. We need to give them a date where they have to respond to say whether they want to pay it over 30 years or whatever. So it's a long process that we go through, so. And hopefully this will be the end of it.
Sounds great.
so if for any reason we miss that,
Then it's an extra year, push everything out a year.
for the town, right? So from, anything you can need from the town,
Yeah, I
Soon
mean, Mark and
we're
Jim
gonna
have
jump
been
through
both
hoops.
in contact with that, we've had meetings. I don't see it as an option, we have to get.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, the sooner we get that done, the better, right? Okay. Good.
Anything else for Nick?
No, great,
No.
great presentation, thanks.
And thank you for this.
Yeah,
It-
if there's
It
any
creates a
feedback.
clearer picture, it really does. Thank you.
We have Jim here, he wants to touch on one of the articles specifically. Nick, you can stick
Yeah,
around
I'm gonna back.
for this.
Mark,
This
yeah, Jim's a good friend.
would impact something that you could talk about too. I will turn this over
This is
to
just
Jim.
the articles.
Thanks.
Thank you. That's a lot. So, the article we're here to discuss is declaring the building that was currently at 37 Shattuck Street as surplus, with the intent in moving up and becoming more aggressive with identifying this as deeply affordable senior rental housing. When I say deeply affordable, it's 30 to 60% area median income. And that is something that is part of the planning board, the approval of 550 King Street. And so we have an internal team that consisting of the town planner, the finance director, myself, town council, and we also have an outside consultant that is well versed in low-income housing tax credits, affordable housing, messaging, community engagement for such projects and things of that nature. So we've had a number of different meetings. I originally had requested that chairpersons of various boards and committees have a meeting. We had one last week via Zoom that just gave the 10,000-foot overview of what the goal is here. And so the developer had come and the developer of 550 King Street had come and said, for phase one, they would like to be able to postpone any affordable unit construction in phase one. Now, every single phase that has housing has got to have an affordable component to it, 10% of those units. So, and postpone for a later phase. And my answer was no. And I said, what we can do if we do it a different way, if we identify those 300 units as a market rate, but if we accelerate the senior deeply affordable housing component of the project, from a latter phase, move it up to the head of the line. And which was agreed upon. So, the first step for us to be able to start this process is to declare this property surplus. Now, as the internal team has been meeting, one thing that has really come to light, just as a matter of fact today, which I have not even expressed anything to the select board because it was quite later, the team is the developer of this property for senior, the deeply affordable units, it is a low-income housing tax credit eligible, because it's under that 30 to 60%. That's a financial interest the state would have into the project in the form of tax credits for the developer. However, one thing that the state is extremely vigilant on is the fact of making sure that he didn't need a microphone and I do.
Nobody was listening to Nick.
We can't hear you, Jim.
Okay, I know, I'm quiet. Where was I?
They're extremely vigilant on.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very, very much. Thank you, Brian. In making sure, because the low-income housing tax credits are so competitive that they're not going to accept any proposal from someone that does not have the experience. So a developer of this property would have to partner with an established nonprofit affordable housing developer. And also an added partner to that would be from the Affordable Housing Trust, and having them have an investment, a financial investment in the project also. Not to the level of the developer or anything, but there is at least some skin in the game. The state likes that. In fact, they encourage that for the success of the project.
So what is so far, the Affordable Housing Trust has only been funded out of Littleton taxes.
Correct.
So what is the benefit to the Littleton taxpayer that's paying to have this project? Is it going to be, are there any units that are specifically for Littleton residents rather than
Yep.
anybody that financially?
Would you like to answer that one? Because I just had the COA meeting and asked the exact same
I
question.
asked that exact same question yesterday afternoon. Apparently, Maren and Jim told me it has to do with the Mass General Law and...
It's a Mass General Law with the deeply affordable, with that 70% of those units can be identified as Littleton residents, for Littleton residents, of those units.
Okay.
And at this point right now, there's an approximate 40 units here at this location. There is discussion internally on the potential of expanding that density, and how that happens, and parking and a number of different issues are still in flux within the internal team as we discuss it. And we are, so as that process goes forward, the submission to the state, now they mandate, they insist on someone being successful having a partnership, in which any developer would welcome that partnership with that expertise at their side. Because I've been involved in a low-income housing tax credit program before, and literally the submission to the state is a 3-ring binder that is this thick. I mean, it's unbelievable. The process takes quite a while. It could take a couple years, but the main part of what's mandatory is anybody that's going to be developing this has to have control of the parcel. So, in other words, fortunately, if we go forward to town meeting, we then, it is accepted at town meeting to declare the surplus. We go through the process of RFPing the project. We get that with the understanding of what has to be done. Now, we vote to convey the property, or do some kind of a trade, or for a shell, or whatever the case is that has been discussed for the past few years before I got here. And we don't have to leave. We can stay. And let's say, as someone else takes ownership, we stay for $1 a year. It would be our rent, or a month, or something to that effect. But it would simply, but they would have to show that they have control as part of the application process, and in the timing of that. So originally, my discussion with the chairpersons, as we have explored this project deeper since our conversation, it has the understanding that low-income housing tax credit process is so long, it pushes it out. Meanwhile, we stay here. My request originally was to come to the Finance Committee and be a partner here, and we are gathering necessary data of the potential cost for building a brand new town hall, what the annual cost would be to temporarily relocate. Well, and we would be getting what it would cost to physically move, and we would have those financial numbers, and it would be a request to the Finance Committee to say, okay, here are the numbers. It's our intent to make sure that any cost associated with building a permanent location, that we can absorb the payments within the levy. We do not, it is not our intent, or we will not go back to the taxpayer and say, can we please have another debt exclusion, or anything like that. That is not That is not what we're gonna do here. So I wanna make that perfectly clear. So it's actually good news that the process is pushed down a couple years, because it will allow us to be able to fine tune any numbers, continue to work with the finance committee, and then and then make a determination of when we are able to move and make that arrangement with the developer. So we could be here as a renter for 2 years, 3 years, or I don't know, I don't want to speculate.
You said you identified 40 units. So are they going to be, is this a reno or a tear down?
No, it's it's probably going to be a tear down, and the historical commission has expressed that they are not going to prohibit any activity to try and create the senior affordable housing, and they've been super about that.
Excellent.
And recognizing that. So what we're doing right now is we're having an engineering plan done of the site and identifying exactly what we're talking about, because these lot lines around here with the library, with the field, with the council agent, it's a ball of twine as far as it's complicated. And we just want to make sure that we've got clean lot lines and the ability to identify, in the event that if we increase the density here, we push the new building would be pushed closer to the street, because you have all the green space there that potentially we would maximize the lot lines for that. People have talked about parking in the area. Well, typically you're looking at 30 to 60% AMI. You're talking about seniors, seniors that don't necessarily have their individual modes of transportation. So the number of vehicles, and I will have the data for that, the number of vehicles is reduced when you have that population. Okay. In terms of increasing the density here, there is internal discussions about potentially increasing it to splitting the parcel, having one of the 40 units the deeply affordable. Then project number 2, it can either be another deeply affordable, or it can be just affordable. And that can be anywhere from 20 to 40 more units. And it all depends on the lot line and setback requirements and design. And so we would like to be able to, we would love the support of the finance committee to, when we go to town meeting, to be able to declare this property surplus, so we can at least initiate the RFP process to move forward, and then identify the opportunity to, and I say move it to the front of the line, is because that process is so far down the road. Originally, to turn this into senior affordable housing was thought at a later phase, because the development of 550 King Street and Great Road was looked to be 7 or 8 years long. Every year is starting. With that said, I don't want this component of the project to get too far down the road in the rearview mirror. And because the need is so great in this community, it's been expressed multiple times by the select board to me that let's identify an opportunity for them, and so that's what we're trying to do, and allow us to still stay here, but be on the road to be a partner with developing this for senior deeply senior affordable housing.
So, I understand the need, the want, I understand the need. The question I have is, Lapoli is asking basically to be off the hook for the affordable housing in phase 1, if he can do the affordable piece here. I think is what I'm hearing from him.
Yes, that's okay.
And this is not going to happen for 4 years. It's a 2-year process,
right,
plus 2 years to build it and
right,
get people in here. So
right,
in effect, the affordable piece gets pushed out from what it would have been if Lapoli put affordable units in the first 300 units that he's building.
Okay,
How does that square with the state? And, I mean, it's just.
right. No,
Do-
and
do
it's a
we-
fair, it's a fair question. The creation of the deeply affordable is part of his master plan, his permit through the
Right.
planning board.
Right,
He has to do this project.
yeah, somewhere.
Sure.
Well, what they
Okay.
told him was
But
on,
either way,
on
he's
550.
required to create 10% of total housing units as affordable. And then it's broken down of how many deeply affordable, how many at 80% moderate income, how many at 80 to 120% average market rate, and then you've got over that, I think it's a 3% of, that has luxury rate of units as part of the development. So it's, whether it happens we start the process earlier or later, it's still gonna happen. And this project, because it is connected with 550, is completely identified as his affordable allotment towards the entire project. So I would rather have these units up front or start the process as soon as possible than wait 3 to 4 years, because then we're out another 3 to 4 years beyond that. And so I just thought it was in the best interest of the need to present that.
so if the town says, no, we're gonna turn this into the finance committee headquarters for the world, and we're not gonna do anything with this building, then Sal is, as you say, he's on the hook to create those units somewhere. And at this point, the only place he's got agreement with the planning board is 550 King Street.
But the way I understand it, and I don't think I'm wrong, but this is a component of the development process for 550 King Street, where we are.
Well, it either is now or is being proposed that way, but was it, I don't, and
I don't-
Mark, you've been in a lot more meetings than I have. I don't recall that being, this building being a piece discussed with the planning board when 550 King Street's been
The
discussed.
planning board has had conversations about doing something with this building with Sal. The select board has not. for a
Oh,
long
okay,
time.
then I'm wrong. Okay,
But we can't do anything without a town meeting vote
right,
regardless.
no, I understand that. I was just seeing the dominoes.
Okay. So.
But
Flipping
we're allowed
around here,
to
that's all.
declare it surplus and choose a developer, but putting out an RFP for just the affordable, experienced affordable contractor?
No, that would be up to that would be a partnership developer. So that developer would have to come to the table with that experienced nonprofit housing developer. And we declare it surplus, we go through the procurement process. Now, the response is going to be XYZ developer and XYZ nonprofit housing developer would like to purchase this property for the creation of those type of units.
Okay.
If I can
And-
just read the planning board decision, please.
Yeah, Before
Bear
you do that, turning over control of this property, do we turn it over to the new partnership, which is Sal and some
Housing developer.
housing
nonprofit,
developer,
yeah.
low-income housing developer, whatever
Right.
they're called? So, but that would be the controlling entity, that partnership.
Correct.
It wouldn't be Sal, it wouldn't be the low-income developer, it would be that partnership.
That's the way I
Okay.
understand it, yes.
Okay. Okay.
And you can't submit anything to the state unless they have control of the
Unless,
site.
okay, so that partnership would have control, then they can go to the state.
Then they can start the
Okay.
process in the state.
Okay,
So,
Thank
but
you.
it starts with us, with the town first, declaring this location surplus. So we've
Okay.
got the breakdown, so we have one bedroom, 484 units, which is 60% of the total units. And here the breakdown is 40 units at 30% to 60% AMI for seniors, 10 units at or below 80% area median income, 440 units at market rate comparable to 80 to 120% AMI, 30 units at high-end market. Two bedrooms, 241 units of that, which is 30% of the total project. We've got 24 units at or below 80% area median income. 172 units at market rate comparable to 80 to 120% of average income. 45 units of high-end market. For three bedrooms, there's 79 units for three bedrooms, which is afforded as 10% of the total project. 7 units at or below AMI, 80% AMI, 64 units at market rate comparable to 80 to 120% of AMI, and 8 units at high-end market rate. So that's the breakdown of the decision. So as you can see, that 30 to 60%, the deeply affordable ones, are right at the top in the one bedroom units. So it's this is why I'm suggesting we create this opportunity sooner rather than later.
So, as a point, the planning board decision also said that he had to build 40-ish deeply affordable senior units. He did not have to build them at 550. He could build them within, I think it was a half mile of the Littleton Common, was what the decision said. And the planning board intimated that this would be a good location, but, you know, they can't commit to.
No, that's fine, and I'm not,
And I think that's. in
I'm not
addition-
challenging that, I'm
those-
just
those 40
understanding.
units are in addition to what was outlined, what Jim just read.
Yep.
Thank you.
No, I think this is, personally think is a terrific location. You've got a senior center, you've got the library.
Right.
You know, so in terms of a location, it's perfect, but it's just coming up at this point in the process when he's saying, okay, now I can build 200 or 300 higher-end apartments over there and the lower-end apartments over here. It's just,
But he's still, I mean, don't forget, he still has a mixture in every single component. That first 300, you know, it will be, so he's actually built, it would actually be building 340 units. So a 360 or 380, and the affordability factor would be from here, for the deepest need that we have.
Mhm.
And then, the balance of them would be up the street. Whatever number that may be, of whether there's 40 here, 60 here, or 80 here. He did ask if we would be acceptable to a payment in lieu of affordable unit, and Littleton does not want that. Littleton wants the affordable unit.
Right. And all he's asking for right now is declaring it surplus. The conveyance is a whole separate thing, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think
Correct.
clearly this is surplus.
And in talking with town council, there's a couple ways of doing that through an RFP. There's a special legislative act in which if anyone has saw on the front page of the Globe today, we saw that Governor Healy had signed in Lowell today that signed a bill that put into law that prevailing wage is for public construction projects, and unions is what has to be done instead of a non-union shop building something. So there's a number of different communities that have done special legislative acts to basically bypass the procurement process, have a relationship with the developer, and turn around and but it's a prevailing wage rate project. I'm not advocating for that. I'm not suggesting that right now. I'm just saying, I'm just being transparent on what we're discussing. We're also discussing the RFP process and drafting that.
But what would be the RFP you'd be looking for, though? It sounds like you've already got the candidates for that. I guess I'm missing what that piece
But
is.
you still, but the RFP it's a request for proposals, because you still have to identify your scope of what you're looking for in the RFP, and you have to solicit the world and say, this is an opportunity, and our opportunity here would be, we would declare, the property is declared surplus, and now what we would like to do is, we are willing to convey, or there's been conversations about swapping for land and for a shell of a building that would be finished at a later time for this parcel for the creation of senior affordable units.
So this is open to anyone, any
Anybody
developer?
can answer it,
Okay.
absolutely. But as I had just mentioned, Jerry, there is special legislation that's been done by a number of communities apparently, but I'm not a strong proponent for that.
But I guess my question is, if this process takes a while, you don't get these back, the state still has to approve it first, once we declare it surplus, so like this RFP doesn't go out for how long, a year, 2 years?
Oh, no, the
goes
RFP,
out right away?
we can put the RFP out right away, because it would be our goal to start this down that state lengthy process, and the only way that they can even submit anything into the state, anybody, whoever gets it, is they have to have control of the site. So it would be our intent to convey, and now we are tenants here for as long as that process would take, and that's who knows, at least 2 years. And clearly my goal would be to, whoever does it, it would be $1 a year for rental.
And at that time, you would know what they would give you as far as a land swap or whatever you'd have to.
Correct, that would be part of their answer back to us.
So if it didn't end up going to Lapoli, someone else had a better proposal, then they still do start with their affordable housing in their first phase.
This is gonna be senior affordable housing, no matter who the developer is.
Right, but if he's not the developer here, he would have to begin in his first phase.
Right, he would have to create the 10% down there.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, we had that meeting that Jim referred to last week. My concern at that meeting was, the discussion at that point was, we vacate this building, we go to temporary headquarters somewhere else,
Right,
and then wait for a shell to be built, and then move again.
correct.
But it sounds like what you're saying tonight, that middle phase is gone, we go straight from here to a potential new town hall.
Potentially, it's all dependent upon, fitting it under the levy, so, and the timing, so that is still in flux of the timing could be, because they are competitive, it may be longer than 2 years, it may be 4, but the fact is, we will be in a position that we will have options at that time.
And we have something from, let's say that the developer of 550 King is the winning
Yep,
person here.
yep.
We would have some assurance that the new town hall is in phase 1.
No. I say that because it's dependent, I think it's dependent upon the timing of the low-income housing tax credit process. So I could be speaking wrong right now and saying no, but I don't want to create a promise that it's going to be in phase 1, because why would that be built in phase 1 and just sit there while we're rent-free right now? If we're paying minimal cost or $1 a year. So I think that's going to be half the timing thing. If we turn around and explain to the developer of 550 King Street, okay, we want to be able to, we need the shell built by 2028 or 2027. So if we're able to identify a schedule for that developer, we're not moving, we're still here,
Okay,
okay?
okay. So, the other thing is, you now mentioned not only the 40 units that we're talking about, but a second phase which could add another 20 to 30
20,
units.
correct, 20 to 40, between 20 and 40 extra.
At a
So
different,
we're
at a
talking
different financial
80
level.
units total,
80
60.
units total here,
Correct.
and this is why I asked Nick to stay. Nick, we have sewer capacity from this building of 3,000 gallons per day. Correct?
Less.
Less than
This
that.
is,
This
this
is,
is essentially equivalent to one EDU.
right,
It's not
this is
one.
nothing, right.
So we're talking 80 residential units.
Yeah, I mean, and this is, you know, obviously Jim's being thrown into the middle of a community that has a very tight sewer discharge capacity issue, right? And when we first had these conversations, met with Sally, asked for 187,000, 189,000 gallons per day. It was all 550. And we developed this plan, how to work together and, you know, how to make sure that we meet the town's goals of, you know, revitalizing the common. That's what the sewer was for, was to revitalize the common. And also how to pay for it, and that's where Sal came into the equation. And we had to give something up for that, right, for them to pay for the exceeding cost of that sewer infrastructure. And he got 150,000 gallons of our 243,000 gallon discharge capacity. That's a huge gift from the town. You know, we should never lose sight of that. That we gave them 62% of our sewer capacity.
Plus the 10 million.
Yeah. It was only 80.
Okay.
But, you know, he then goes and he buys 410 Great Road, the mill, and he wants more capacity. He'll take every, I told you, he'll take every ounce of capacity we want to give him, whether he uses it or not, because that is the bottleneck for any developer in the common. It gets complicated now when you start trying to develop this property. Because again, it's still, no matter where you develop, it's a limited capacity system. You know, for 40, I did the quick math, 40 single bedroom apartments is about 13 EDUs. You know, not one, 13. And if we continue to have the mindset of, you know, what's that shaker, what's that this, all of a sudden we have a very big problem before we've accepted 1 ounce of poop. Right, no, 1 ounce of poop has gone through that building yet. We're already talking about trying to expand it. Which I understand, you know, there's a lot of energy around this, which is good.
And I appreciate, you know, and Nick he's been great on multiple levels, and the answer is no. Doesn't bother me, I just wanna maximize that.
It's something that we need to think of before we go down this road. So
Right.
if this is, you say 40 units is 13, so that's 26 potential here.
And there's plenty of similar properties that have probably done similar type of development and then treated it on site without connecting the sewer. So maybe that's an option. I get worried that we're oversubscribing our very limited sewer discharge
But
quickly. And
he
he still hasn't built anything, and he's sitting on the one thing that's the most valuable to the town.
So he could essentially take, if this whole thing becomes 26 EDUs, he could take 26
From that.
from that
side.
project.
Yeah, maybe, that actually came up in conversations way back when we had that agreement. And I believe in the agreement, he put language in there that allowed for it, and then our town council put language in there that said, well, yeah, the law applies. So I'm not sure if that can happen. I don't see why we couldn't have those conversations to talk about it. But I wouldn't say it's a guarantee that you could just take EDUs from 550 and move it to here. I think he was trying to protect his asset at 410 when we have those conversations. You know, if I want to go 410, could I move some of that capacity to 410? From a sewer department standpoint, we don't really care. 150,000, you know, that's great. You know, send us your.
Right, wherever it comes from,
Right.
right.
That's more of a town planning decision of where you guys want to develop and where you think it's important.
But for him to potentially put 80 units here and satisfy his requirements from the planning board, plus a little extra, he's putting more units over there, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, at some point he's gonna hit it, he's gonna hit his.
He's gonna
cap,
run
too.
out of space.
No, I think that's a decade into the future. I don't foresee him building anything too quickly. But at some point, if we don't solve the capacity problem, we've looked at the high school, we've done our infiltration test there. Our engineers are doing a final report to get the DEP, so we should have that answer soon on if the high school can discharge any more effluent, which we believe it can. We believe we can get another 60,000 gallons there. But I always caveat that my board wants to go through a process and make sure it's not just given to the guy with the most money. They want to hit the town goals, which is to revitalize the common. So they want to work with the planning board and the select board to make sure
Right, that's
that
priority.
we're doing that.
Right, that's priority. And my job is to, shepherd the project through what was originally the vision of this. And so, and I know there's been references for many, many, many months, the fact that, he hasn't done anything yet. Well, right, so, here we've got the One Stop Mass Works grant. They're breaking ground. I just signed a $2.5 million infrastructure contract to start up there. That funding will continue, but I will also explain, as part of my meeting that I had with Sal and his team a week ago, they have individual paths. So he's got his development plan of what he wants to do, and then he has got individual locations on there. And he's got major anchor tenants that are ready to go in that will and what spurs off of those major anchor tenants, now you're looking at that it becomes all the retail spaces, the higher end retail spaces are then full. But one of the areas is, and they're on their own, those what's the word I'm looking for? The anchors. So those anchor companies that want to come in, they're on their own development schedule. So one of which is a high-end hotel that if they want to turn around and say, okay, we want to be able to open our doors for January 1st of 2028, so we want to start building now, they can come before the planning board and get their permits and they can build separate than from Sal. That's real. And that's what I'm pushing for them to fulfill that is, look, you need to be on a tight schedule, so because we want that. But now, but I'm also sensitive to what the town is looking and what Nick is saying. So we're gonna have to take more of a calculated approach to it in terms of discharge capacity.
If he has his original plans, and Nick, you would know better than I, but there was no talk of a hotel way back when.
No, I couldn't remember. I actually pulled them up and I just sent them to Jim. You probably hasn't seen them yet before I came here. It was like 189,000 gallons. It was 750 or 60 apartments, but it wasn't a hotel.
Right.
But there was something there, right? So something goes away for that hotel to go there.
But
What
a
that means for a sewer
Hotel's
flow.
gonna use a lot more than a store,
Yeah,
Right.
but it could have been a store with apartments above. I'm not sure.
Well, there's gonna be some of those. There's gonna be retail or professional office space with residential on the top. So that's gonna be a component of one of the buildings.
And yeah,
also.
we don't really get involved in that. Our end is 150,000 gallons. We gotta make sure that we don't exceed that. And the town will drive the vision of that property with the developer. That's not really for us to get in the middle of. I'd rather not.
Yeah, but.
So I only bring that up because that's just another hurdle that we need to get to before town meeting arrives, because that's, if you make a case to town meeting, you gotta make sure that the whole story is being told and we have an answer to everything that's gonna be asked there. And store capacity is a big issue.
But that can't be answered right now. I mean, but, if it boils down to, we're looking at 40 units here, we're looking at 40 units here. So,
Yeah, I think the contingency, Jim, is you might wanna ask him, if you don't have capacity, have you developed a plan to take care of it on site?
okay,
I would think they could do that. I would think that, they have good engineers. I would think they'd figure out a way to be able to
Right.
take care of that issue.
okay. But I will, and I appreciate that guidance, and the team will have every effort to be able to have that answer, along with every other area of concern that's been expressed so far. With the Council on Aging, with the The select board has offered a number of different things, and you guys now have planning board on Thursday, Littleton Business Association tomorrow night, and
I have one other
4,000
question.
customers.
How are you going to figure the cost to be inside the levy for whatever you need to upfit without knowing what you're gonna get, which you won't know until these come back? So you're not gonna have that for this article.
I'm not following the
So
question.
you were gonna have a cost of what it would be to upfit a shell or to relocate temporary
Correct.
housing. How are you gonna have that, though, when you don't know what the developer's gonna give you in return until after
Well,
that's chosen?
a good question. Well, we would take out the relocation expenses. So, but we'll have that back of the envelope number if necessary. But it's the way we would approach it is we are working with LLB to identify, based upon the square footage need for a town hall, what that cost will be on a per square foot basis. So we will be able to turn around and say, at this point, the cost is 17 million or 8 million or whatever the case is. So we will be able to have that number at town meeting. It's not gonna be in cement, but it will be in the neighborhood.
And we think we can cover another 17, 18 million dollars inside the levy?
All I'm saying is I'm presenting whatever I can present and work with the finance committee for us to be able to pay for something inside the levy. So much stuff as the property up there gets developed, there are so many things that are coming in line for revenue sources also that we're gonna recognize. So that's the goal here.
So if you recall back in our Super Saturday meeting, we went to the capital plan. I threw like a token amount of $4 million or $5 million or something into that plan for the fit out of a new town hall under the levy. Not 17 million, but something.
Don't go by
Right.
me, go by him.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I'm gonna say, okay, 4 million, 17, 50 million.
It's a number I pulled out of the air, Brian.
No, I know.
If that was the case, I would have said 1.
Okay, but I'm just, okay, so here I am, playing average citizen at town meeting saying,
Yep.
Shaker DPW, Shaker was twice or 3 times what we thought it was gonna be. DPW building sort of came out of, to some degree, left field, and then town meeting, it's like, and we don't know, but it could be,
It's just the walls, basically, and furniture and fixtures. That's all you're paying for. The shell of the building is not on our dime.
Well, that's assuming that's what's offered, but if it's another developer, you said it could be a land swap.
No, part of the
That's-
RFP,
that's
Has
we
to be
can.
for now.
RFP.
Okay.
So, and then, but let's make this even more interesting. So part of that, but you'll enjoy this one.
okay.
Part of that swap for a shell, now that shell would be inclusive of a number of different expensive components of that. Making sure that we've got ADA accessible bathrooms already there, that we've got some of the mechanicals, the HVAC that's already there.
Square footage
So-
requirement.
Correct, exactly. So we've got a suppression system already there. So when we go in, to the chairman's point, we're looking at furniture and fixtures and walls and things of that nature. That's our goal. So we have Ryan and the building commissioner working together to identify, along with Vertex project manager, who's been kind enough to input to identify things that would be part of that shell.
That's the beauty of the RFP process. This is what we're looking for.
Okay.
You tell us whether you can meet that or not. Any developer in the world. You're gonna provide us a shell of town hall.
And obviously it has to be in town, so it has to be a developer that has property
Right.
in town to be able to do something with, so that limits your pool.
Right.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes, for the land swap. You're right.
Okay, okay. You're right, I did enjoy that. It's like, okay.
We'll learn it.
Yeah, no. Like, I mean, we can often find 4 million in seat cushions and Steve doing his Steve job. But your number, I know.
Please,
We will never quote that, but it just.
Yes, you
it's-
will.
No, I am so busy with my own personal work, man. I don't talk to anybody. But okay, all right. I'm chill. Okay.
Anything else for Jim?
I'm good.
Well, I appreciate your time and your questions and your concerns, and it's helped, and we will continue, the team will continue to work hard on crossing those Ts, dotting those Is, and having the answers and the proper presentation at town meeting. And if it's, and since I have both chairs here, if it's okay, if there's a potential that we could be, the team could be the first on the agenda for the FinCom Select Board meeting to give an overview of information or anything for town meeting, if that's okay with you two.
Okay.
So, and I'm just making that request to make sure that that's a goal, but I'll keep you updated on that. And I still can't believe I need a microphone. Okay. Thank
you.
you all very, very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you, Jim.
Good, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
Am I dismissed?
You're dismissed.
Good night.
Thank you, Chief.
All right.
Still think we're getting out at 9?
Well, this should go quick. So Jim handed out 36 articles that, I guess these were presented to the select board last night. There's no verbiage to them yet, but this is basically what could be on the warrant. A lot of it's the usual stuff. I can quickly run through, because I know a lot of these things. The revolving funds, water enterprise, sewer. Capital items, we know the capital items, number 10. Transfer to special injury indemnity fund, that's to replenish the fund because we paid the fire chief portion of this current fiscal year out of that indemnity fund until the previous chief retired officially. So we have to replenish that fund. I don't know the number offhand, but it's not much. 100,000 maybe, I think. That's probably pushing it. Reallocate number 12. Okay, so if you remember, last year's town meeting, we had the ARPA funds paying for our portion of the betterment. Found out as they got closer to when the ARPA funds were due to be spent, which was last December, there was some question whether they really could be spent on the betterment itself.
Yep.
So what they wound up doing, the select board repurposed those ARPA funds to other projects that were definitely allowable. And I think portion of it paid, and Mark, you may remember, a portion it paid for some capital items from last year's warrant that was using free cash. So now this town meeting has to reallocate that free cash usage to the betterment. Plus there's some other funds that they're putting towards that. So I think there's two components that are making up that betterment. So after this town meeting, we will have the $700,000 or so to pay our portion of the betterment. It'll go into the betterment puzzle, which will help us with the operating budget for the following year. So when talking about the betterment, this year is $1.9 million, and I believe we're using a little over 200,000. Nick will check, but I think it's a little over 200,000. It's leaving us with $1.6 million and change for debt service for the sewer project. FY '27, I think, is still in the neighborhood of $1.4 million or so net, after they use, I think it was 400,000 of the betterment to pay down. In total, once we get, and I just looked at this today, in total from the first time we borrowed until FY '27, that would be $4.5 million that the town has put into the sewer project to pay for the debt service piece of it. I have kept on Nick to remind him that the town needs to be repaid for those dollars. So he's going to have some type of user fee, debt service fee, because there are some items that were borrowed for that did not make it into the betterment calculation as part of the negotiation with Mr. Lapoli. And then the betterment itself, those funds will pay the rest of it back. But there's probably a couple of $1 million outside of the betterment process that we're still owed. So the quicker we can get that money back into the town coffers, and it not only eases the operating budget because those expenses go away, but we'll have more revenue in here to pay for past expenses. We should start thinking of how we want to expend those revenues. It shouldn't just be thrown into the operating budget because they're one-time revenues.
So it should go into one of our capital blah, blah, blah funds.
Exactly.
Yes.
So we need to be very prudent in how those funds are spent going forward. I just want to bring that to everybody's attention, keep it on the radar, so nobody thinks that we are going to be flush with cash at some point, because we're not.
It's our policy. I mean, we did this policy 15 years ago.
Right.
It's one-time money goes against debt or stabilization funds.
Right.
We don't have a choice, which is great.
Exactly. So 13 is the second part of the ARPA. It's the interest that was generated on the ARPA funds. They don't have to be spent as ARPA funds did, so we're free to use that interest, which is a couple $100,000, which is the second component. So that was the two pieces. So it's
Sure.
the capital and the interest gets it at $700,000. Okay. So a betterment to be extended for mix for 14. So the treasurer after me, and also the treasurer before me, my double time, borrowed a piece of the sewer borrowing for 20 years. Clean Water Trust, which is the bulk of the borrowing, is for 30 years. And the betterment can only have one term. So this article is to allow for those mixed terms, because we could have some debt that's paid in 20 years with people not paying their full debt, their full betterment for 30 years.
Right.
So things aren't matching up.
Good luck explaining this at town meeting, man.
Not my problem.
It'll either go through with no discussion or it'll be 45 minutes.
Put it on the consent agenda.
Yeah.
Please, yeah.
15 and 16 really have nothing to do with us. There's a gift of land to the cemetery right away for Russell Street. Compensation. 18, capital stabilization, school building stabilization. We already talked about these things. Debt exclusion stabilization, number 20. Community Preservation Committee budget. There's some things in the CPC articles. We talked about some of those projects. I think they have a lot more projects outside of what came from our capital budget. Nagog Hill revolving fund. So this is a fund where the rent that we're getting from the potential renter goes into this revolving fund to help pay for ongoing expenses at the orchard. That correct?
Yes.
Okay. 25, 26, and 27, 3 revolving funds for EHS. So they're gonna have maybe like a gym membership for their little gym. It's not gonna be a lot of money, but it goes into this revolving fund to help pay for the maintenance of the equipment that's in the gym. Makes
Pay
sense.
for the Bengay.
Yeah.
Same thing
Don't
for.
go there, man.
Same thing for meals in 26, and they're having a beverage service for coffee. Getting an outside vendor for coffee goes into this revolving fund to pay the vendor.
Sure.
That's 26, 25, 26, 27. Clean Lakes, they asked for a revolving fund. There could be some portion of Park and Rec's beach fees that go towards Clean Lakes, and they will go into this revolving fund. I'm not certain that the commissioners have
Agreed to it yet.
come to any kind of decision. Do you know anything more than me?
I was at their meeting immediately before this. They have voted to fund it in, I don't know, I think they've already set the beach fees for this year, so it would be the following year before they could do it. But they've agreed that, in principle, on funding it. I don't know the timeframe.
Okay. Thank you.
29, haven't we already done this?
We did it for,
Watson, for the
The senior
senior
center.
center.
Oh, design, not just design, but design, okay, fine. Yep.
okay, 30, in case there is a agreement with the police union, this will fund it. 31 is the salary reserve in case they don't fund. 32, we just talked about. There's some changes to the personnel bylaw.
Well, time out. Why do we need a salary reserve? Is that just gonna be another slush fund?
To be able to
What is
carry
it?
funds over to the following year in case the contracts aren't settled.
Wow, okay.
If 30 happens, 31 goes away. That's my
Let
understanding.
them wait till the next year. Settle out of wait.
And that's what that does.
Hmm?
That's what that does. 31.
No, just let them wait.
It's a retro.
We're agreeing to retro? No.
That's not our decision.
Well,
That's,
okay.
that's the select board's decision. NAGOG, that's 34 is transferring. There was some talk about a parcel or two up at NAGOG to go to conservation. That's what 34 does. And then 35, 36 are zoning bylaws.
Why is 32 so late in the warrant?
Well, I don't know. I don't think they've,
Yeah, all of these items can't be last.
I don't think they've
We haven't
put
set the
things.
order yet.
Yeah, Mark, I just,
We haven't set the order yet.
okay, yeah, no,
Yeah, you can't have the marijuana bylaw be the second to last item.
okay, good.
So Ryan is still working with Kim and Robin to finalize the budgets. There's been some little surprises since we met February 1st. We got the health insurance increase of 19.9%.
Wow. What were what were they hoping for?
We put 17 into the budget, I
Okay.
believe. It's still a couple $100,000. So they're trying to figure out what they're doing to pay for that. I kind of have an idea, but I don't want to spoil their fun. And there were some other minor things still up in the air, some things that we had talked about that didn't have a funding plan just yet. There was conservation thing, there was an EHS thing. There was a couple other things that I don't recall off the top of my head, but we're going to have a joint meeting with the Select Board on March 24th. This is supposed to be the only thing on the agenda for them, in case you didn't know, to finalize the budget and to, I guess, talk more about Article 32 also. Talk about the warrant articles and get our recommendations in. So that'll be a big meeting, so put it on your calendars, the 24th. The meeting starts at 6:30.
Steve, I know this is a non-answerable question, but with all the craziness going on in DC and various funds being cut to states, and we're a blue state, so we're targeted, blah, 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 blah. I mean, do we think there's any danger of any of the state funds coming to us being cut by necessity?
Specifically in education.
There's certainly the chance some education funds with the Department of Education going by the boards. They're the ones who fund the states who distributes the money to the cities and towns. So
Yeah, no, that's
a lot of our special ed funding comes from federal
Yeah.
government.
Right, so I just think we should be prepared for, I mean, a few weeks ago, we had a balanced budget-ish, and now we're working to getting the budget balanced-ish again, but one can imagine, the meteor hitting the budget over the next couple months.
So it's a good thing to talk about. This is why the school department has their school choice funds.
right.
In case of emergency, please break glass. And
So-
however, that affects the debt exclusion stuff for Shaker Lane.
Right.
And the $995 that we got it down to. So to the point that they're spending more of their school choice on stuff that the federal government's not going to fund, then
Yeah, but
the cost goes up.
it just comes back to
Absolutely.
Brian's point. There's only so much money.
Right.
And if you start, having to use some of those reserves,
Mm-hmm.
it could get really dicey really quickly.
Yep.
And if we-
So, at our meeting yesterday, I think it was yesterday, I can't keep track of the days. Rep. Arciero and Senator Eldridge were there. They said what the governor's budget as currently submitted has slight increases for us for the Chapter 90 in the UGGA money. It's not enough that we're gonna, be dancing in the streets, but the numbers aren't going down in the current budget plan.
Chapter 90 or chapter 70? 90 is roads.
90.
70, sorry.
70.
It was 100,000-ish, I
Right.
think, increase in chapter 70.
So that's the cherry sheet component, but there's a lot of federal grants that the school department gets directly from the government. So that's
I mean, there's grants.
the stuff that is in limbo.
Yeah, all that, plus Washington seems determined to drive us into a recession. I just think we feel like we're in good shape right now, but I think we're approaching the cliff.
Yep, I hear you.
It's terrifying.
Okay.
All right.
So there's really nothing for us to do on this.
There's nothing for us
tonight.
to do. If Brian gets some language to some of these things in the next couple of weeks and gets it to me, I'll be sure to send it out before the meeting, but I'm sure he'll have language at the meeting.
Sure.
Because he has to go to print pretty quickly after that, right? Okay? Next thing, financial policy. So if you remember back Super Saturday, I gave that presentation. Everybody stayed awake for it. This policy, we talked about memorializing what was discussed that day. So that's what this policy is doing. Mark, Justin, and I have already sat down, talked about it. Mark gave some changes. Those are the things I sent around today. There's 2 changes or additions that Mark had. Justin had talked about one change, that paragraph that I sent. He hasn't gotten back to me. It's been a couple of weeks. I assume he's changed his mind, that he doesn't have an issue with what was there. What is there is what was agreed to, that we look at their funding every 2 years. So did everybody have a chance to read the policy?
Yes, yeah. Can I just ask a question, which is, I think it's a great policy, and I'm happy to vote for it, but we're voting for, if we do these 2 projects, this is the way we pay for them
Today.
today, but it's separate from,
The management policy?
No. It's separate from us actually
Doing it.
Supporting the
right,
project.
supporting it. Because like I'll say the Shaker and the DPW puts such a burden on the town. I'm not sure that when it finally comes to the town to our vote of approving, I'm not sure where I stand. So I want to make sure that approving the policy doesn't lock me into approving the plan itself, or the article itself.
No.
Okay, great.
So I think it says, that if these things pass at town meeting, this is the way, this is how it can be funded
Right,
today.
right. But we'll still have a vote.
We still have a vote because it still has to go to town meeting.
Right,
And
but I mean,
if
we have a vote
If this
to
committee
say-
says thumbs down on Shaker, then we're thumbs
Okay.
down on Shaker.
Right. Because there's so much to transpire. So I just wanted to be clear on that.
It's still a long way out, October.
Will, yeah. But having said all that, I think it's great. I think it's a good plan. I think it's great to have a plan. I think it's great to as you say, memorialize it. Because it's the only way we can do it.
Right, because when you think of it, and, I mean, by the time that school's built, we're all up for, reappointments. It's 3 years, at least, before that's even completed, 28. And all the select board, all the school committee. So everybody could change hands between now and then. So this at least lets future boards know this is the plan that was in place, for better or for worse. If you can do better, do better. But here's an outline for you to follow.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
all it does.
We'll all be dead.
Who knows what the world will be like? Who knows what the price of steel will be?
Canada will pay for it.
Well, it's gonna be way down because we're gonna have all these steel mills built in the next
That's
3
true.
years.
That's true. So if nobody has any questions or concerns about the policy, I would like a vote that would authorize me to sign this policy.
I move that we authorize Steve to sign the policy.
Second?
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Again, with that little caveat that Justin may come up with some type of language to change it.
Well, but if either of you 2 guys are uncomfortable with that language, then it should come back.
You got it.
You're okay with that? Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
So I will take this, I will pass it on to the select board, and at their next meeting, which is the 24th, I assume, they could vote this policy also, and then we'll get it to the school
Can
committee.
You 2 guys get to Justin before that and see if you
I
can
tried,
get...
I reached out twice, I think, already, so.
See if, it'd be good to have him and the 3 amigos in the vote.
No, this is great. This is, I couldn't be happier about this.
All right. Mark, you have anything for us?
No.
I think all we have left is minutes then. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sets of minutes that I sent out. We could do it all at once if you like. Have a motion to approve them all. Or if you want to discuss any individually. I'll leave it up to the pleasure of the board.
I move that we approve them all.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the minutes of 4:30, 8:12, 8:21, 9:17, 1:13, 1:21, and 1:28. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Diane will be very happy. Next meeting, like I said, is the 24th with the select board. Should be almost our final meeting before town meeting. Is probably going to be one more. You know that is going to happen because things do change.
And then the evening meeting.
The evening meeting may be put off because there is a Shaker Lane meeting before, a Shaker Lane informational session before town meeting.
Okay.
Because the last town meeting, we had a 10-minute time frame that we could do this on, and Tim let us expend it to 15, but that was kind of pushing it for him. And there was no questions from the residents, so we're
Well,
having
we didn't let them have questions.
couldn't, Tim wouldn't allow it.
Right.
So this is outside of town meeting, it'll be in the cafeteria an hour before town meeting, so we're starting around 6 o'clock. Be like a 10, 15-minute presentation, and then open for questions from everybody.
So then are us three boards going to meet at 5? Because I can't imagine we don't need to.
I don't know, that's a possibility. Because like I said, there's always something.
Right. And instead of a special meeting dinner, it'll be a meeting lunch by the time else said and done.
Okay, if that's it.
Just a quick
Yes.
question. So when is the town meeting scheduled? Is it already?
Town meeting is the first Tuesday of May, the 6th, I think.
Yep.
So town meeting starts at 7, Shaker Lane will be starting at 6, and we may have a pre-meeting starting at 5, maybe. Who knows? Okay, keep you all informed. If there's anything else, we can adjourn. Do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
No, I like to stay.
Second? Second and all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
Flip the switch.
Now,